Hey guys, so a few months ago I put out a video about Korn's guitar tones and I said if you guys liked that video I'd make another one about Fieldy's legendary bass tone. So here we are, it's Korn time. Before we jump in, big announcement, I just dropped my Nu Metal Pro course. I'm going to talk more about that at the end, but essentially it is the ultimate guide on writing, producing, mixing and mastering nu metal. It's super fun, it has all the tips, tricks and secrets for this genre, so go check that out if you want to dive deep on all this stuff. But right now, let's get to slapping the bass. So in a moment, I'm going to break down everything I'm doing here in my DAW to get the sound. But before we even get to that, a huge part of Fieldy's tone is coming from his hands and from the way that his instrument is set up. The obvious thing is that there's a lot of slapping in Fieldy's playing, but even when he's finger picking, like whatever he's doing, he's almost always making sure that the note is going to have that clanky attack to it. So that's the first thing. And coming to the instrument itself, active pickups definitely help. You can get a similar tone to Fieldy with passive pickups, but it's just going to probably be a little bit muddier and not quite as clicky on that top end. So active pickups definitely recommended. Coming to the strings, they want to be pretty light, especially that low A. You want it to be kind of flapping around, rattling against the fretboard, and low action on the instrument helps with that as well. Fieldy's tone isn't actually that distorted. It sounds very aggressive. Part of that is his playing, but also a lot of that kind of comes from the natural distortion sound of the string rattling against the fretboard. Without that, it's just going to sound a little too neat and tidy if we're just getting a very clear A note rather than this kind of messy, rattly thing. New strings also help if you want to get the tone 100% spot on. These I have had on for a few months, but I'm happy enough with the tone I'm getting. If I was recording a tone like this for a client, I would definitely put a new set on though. The only other thing when it comes to the instrument is if you have onboard EQ, then you might want to crank your treble and bass and almost cut all of the mid-range. I'm actually going to leave mine as is just because I like handling all of the EQ in the DAW. And also I want to help out any of you guys that might have a bass guitar that doesn't have onboard EQ. If you have EQ, go for it, but you can definitely do all of that stuff with the amp or with the DAW, whatever you're using. So that's everything as far as how we're playing and setting up the instrument. That's 50% of the battle done already. Now let's jump in here and cover the rest. So as far as I'm aware, Fieldy mainly uses Mesa M2000 heads. I had a look online and couldn't find any plugin emulations of that. But honestly, there are a lot of different amps that can get a Fieldy kind of tone because it is mostly about the stuff we've already discussed and the EQ. So I just went through all the bass plugins I have and decided that the Bass TR plugin by Audio Whistle is the closest thing that I have. And this is actually a free plugin as well, which is awesome. And what I actually did to start off was I just put this on the bright slap preset, which gives us this nice graphic EQ with the exact kind of curve we want here. So this is in front of the amp, boosting the low end, boosting the high end and cutting the mids. That's exactly what we want. This is effectively doing the same thing as if we used our onboard EQ to cut the mids and boost the treble and bass. And whatever amp you're using, you could also just throw an EQ in front of the amp and basically just do something like this, just like a big mid-range cut. You'll get the same kind of thing. So then as far as how we want to adjust the amp itself, this slap setting has already thankfully got the treble all the way up because it knows that's what we want. We're going to want to put the bass almost all the way up and then high mids and low mids. Maybe we won't want to cut all of them, but we definitely want to cut most of it. For now, I'm going to leave it there. And we want a little bit of drive, but like I said, we don't want to like blow this out with distortion because that's going to squash the dynamics if we turn it up, and the dynamics are what give Fieldy's bass that bouncy percussive kind of feel. Also, we need to preserve that clarity in the clicky top end, and drive is not going to help with that. So we're keeping that kind of low. And I'm specifically going for like the Follow the Leader Issues bass tone here, the I guess classic Korn tone. For the two albums before that, you'd want a little more mid-range, but Issues and Follow the Leader, super scooped mid-range. So right now that's sounding like this. And perhaps an overlooked detail when it comes to Fieldy's tone is the miking technique on the cab. I can remember looking in forums years ago about Fieldy's tone and seeing a lot of people saying the miking technique is so important. And like, if you don't nail that, it's not going to have the sound. That confused me for a long time, but turns out they were right. We basically want to get everything pretty close to the center. Listen if I move these off. And then what I'm going to do is move them almost exactly, maybe just slightly off center and just a little bit of a distance away. I don't know what it is about the distance, but this really brings out the top end and the bottom end thump. Here's how it sounds now. Big difference, right? From there, it's going to be mostly about EQ and a couple of other tricks after the amp. And with the EQ, I kind of want to focus on everything, the lows, the mids, and the highs, just to shape it into exactly what we're looking for. Firstly, let's tame that huge low end. That's ridiculous, look at that. Obviously, we could just go back to our amp and turn down the bass knob because it's too high, but that is effectively going to give us more mid-range in the overall balance of the EQ, and we don't want that. We want to keep that mid-range scooped. So we're cranking the bass on the amp, and then we're just going to add a low shelf to tame all of that low end, and maybe a cut somewhere where it's getting boomy. Yeah, right around 100, maybe 120. It's getting pretty boomy. Yeah, that's cleaning things up a little bit for us. Yeah, a little bit around here as well. And then I want to focus on the high mids. We really don't have a lot of mid-range in this sound, but I feel like it's getting a little harsh around maybe 1 or 2K. Yeah, I think we can lose some of that. Okay, and finally, I'm just going to bring in a high shelf, not too drastic because we want that clicky high end, but I find that Fieldy, clanky, clicky stuff is around maybe 2 to 10K. Anything above that is just going to be like high end hiss on top of the tone that's not going to sound nice. So let's see here how our EQ is affecting the tone. Okay, that's sounding awesome to me. And even though we've cut off some of the very top end here, I do want to do some things to enhance this top end that we want to hear. We could just EQ in a high shelf there, but I actually have another plugin I prefer for this kind of thing. If you watch these videos, you know what's coming. So this is Fresh Air, another free plugin, and it is perfect for this kind of tone because it's designed to boost high end without boosting harshness. And this is the kind of tone that can get very harsh very easily. So I think this enhances around 3K. This is around 8K. We want both of those frequencies. So let's lock it in together and just dial this up. That sounds awesome really high, but I'm going to bring it down a little bit because I think that could get a little bit intense in a mix. Keep it around here. Okay, I would say that's pretty much a Korn bass tone at this point, but if we really want to push this into issues and follow the leader territory, it needs to sound a bit more shiny, a bit more expensive, a bit more produced, and a bit more compressed. And the key here is going to be a compressor. Again, if you watch the channel a lot, you probably know what's coming. It's going to be OTT. I'm sure that the guys that mixed issues and follow the leader ran the bass through all kinds of beautiful analog compressors to get that sound. But honestly, OTT, as crude as a tool as it kind of is, it is definitely capable of giving our tone what it needs. So we definitely don't want it at 100% depth. It's going to be way too aggressive and in your face. But if we put this in parallel, maybe 20 or 30%, it just gives it a bit more of that modern sheen, that in-your-face aggression that we need. And I think we should slightly shape the frequency bands here. We really don't want to focus on the mids here. Obviously, there isn't a lot of mid-range in the tone, but OTT is a very aggressive compressor, so it's going to find whatever mids there are. And yeah, you can see it's really bringing them up front. So I'm going to just turn down the mid-range compression and maybe a slight boost on the highs, a slight boost on the lows. That might be all we need. Let's see. All right, and there you go, guys. That is my formula for nailing Fieldy's insane bass tone. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And remember, if you want the ultimate guide from me on the entire process of making a nu metal track from start to finish, you can check out my Nu Metal Pro course. It's way, way more in depth than any videos you see on the channel. We go over the production techniques, the writing tricks, amps, gear, plugins. There's a chapter on mixing vocals in a nu metal context. There's a chapter called a bounce formula where I basically simplify nu metal down to one core rhythmic formula. And I basically explain how you can use one approach to be able to write endless nu metal riffs and guarantee that every time you write a track, you can be sure that the end product is going to just absolutely go nuts. So if that sounds like your sort of thing, go and check it out. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.